everybody, Christine here with a bonus special episode of the Co-Living Code Show. Now, a lot of people had sent me messages about Bedley shutting down. And why that's a big deal is because they're out in New York. They have 600 beds. They started back in 2015. And you just see all of these articles online that they shut down. Everybody was homeless. I knew that maybe these headlines weren't 100% accurate. So I reached out. I happened to find out that Sergii, who's the CEO of Outpost Club, that Outpost Club had taken over a portion of those beds that Bedley was operating. And so reached out. This episode is with Sergii himself, telling us as much as he's able to tell us, obviously, and as much as he knows about the entire situation. And of course, the headlines weren't accurate. As most of us know, we can't believe everything on the interwebs, right? So I was just very grateful. I know Sergii's super busy. They just expanded over to San Francisco. Glad we got him on real quick to talk about it himself. So enjoy this special episode on a Friday that we snuck in for you guys. Hey everybody, it's Christine here with a special episode of the Co-Living Code Show. Sergii, first, thanks. I know you're super busy. I'm on with Sergii. He's the CEO and co-founder of Outpost Club out of New York City. And today we are going to talk about Bedley because it's been all in the news for the last 2 weeks. Everybody's been messaging me and texting me and Christine, what happened to Bedley? And, again, I read as much as I could on the internet, and there's a ton, and definitely went down the Twitter rabbit hole if you search Bedley. But I just wanted to go straight to the source. Sergii, you guys stepped in, I know, and you guys are trying to help some of those displaced residents and guests that were living in those homes. So let's bring you on. Thanks again for coming on. I know we had Jacob on last year to talk about Outpost Clubs. So anybody can search for Jacob Shapiro and learn more about Outpost Club. But Sergii, let's just go right into it. What happened?
Hey, hello everybody. Thanks for inviting me. That story for Bedlit was in the news for different reasons. So from one side, there was a number of customers who was living with them, and they were pretty big, so around 600 beds. From another side, there were some landlords involved, so a lot of angles, yes, for the story. So basically, they for different reasons they decided to go to shut down the business as it was going for the past couple of years, and Outpost took some of the properties, took some of the tenants into the Outpost family, and will also manage their platform basically.
Perfect. And of course, we're not definitely not here to badmouth Bedley at all. And I definitely have a lot, it takes a lot of courage to start a business, and especially co-living, because didn't they start in 2016? I'm trying to remember.
Correct. Yeah, I think they started earlier than that in 2015.
2015, right? So it's they always say the pioneers get all the arrows in the back, right? Because it's nobody knew what the word co-living meant, and I'm sure they were trying to figure it out as they went. And 600 beds is pretty decent growth.
It's difficult. It's difficult to grow the business. You're right, and it's very difficult to grow co-living business for also different reasons, especially if you're in multi-city environment. Yeah. And you need to focus on different things. You need to build a platform. You need to manage your operations. You need to add more inventory, and you need to sell. So a lot of things need to be done. Yeah, and Bedley did a great job in terms of technology. They invested a lot into the technology, and they had a very, let's say, extensive presence in the East Coast. So they operate in Boston, in New Jersey, in New York.
Great. And then you guys are they in Boston also, like you guys are?
No, we took over New York and New Jersey properties. Not all of them, but significant percentage.
Like what percentage do you think of total beds did you guys at least bring into the family?
In some boroughs, we took 100%. In some boroughs, in New Jersey, we, for example, took around 30% of their portfolio.
Got it. And then I know recently you went to, you guys expanded to San Francisco this year, right? Outpost Club?
Yeah. We expanded also in San Francisco this year, correct.
And so how many beds do you guys have under management collectively?
Collectively, we're a little bit under 400 now.
Okay, nice. Perfect. And then, so how, I definitely want our listeners and viewers to understand fully how hard is it to do this business model the right way, in places like New York City, in San Francisco, where sometimes the laws aren't caught up correctly to how people are deciding to live together.
Yeah, so there are a lot of angles to this, and basically it's difficult of the multi-city environment that brings also multi-city regulations. So whenever we go or start operations, first we do the legal review and regulations review in terms of what can be done, what cannot be done, types of houses that exist in a city. So yeah, and then we just choose the right, let's say, the right inventory out of which we can operate in our current model.
And then the landlords, you guys are obviously transparent with the landlords on how you're going to use the properties?
Yeah, always. It's impossible to do behind the back of landlords, never.
And then every resident that moves into becomes a member of Outpost Club, like they're on the actual lease of the unit, correct?
Yeah, so we have a system. So there are few, let's say, legal systems in place. In brief, it's just two. Basically, one is like licensing in any form, and Bedley was technically doing licensing. They license the person to be able to occupy a certain portion of the property. And second type is lease or sublease, and where all the co-tenants share same lease, and they're collectively responsible for lease payments and for the obligations on a lease. So we took Bedley properties and we converted them from the licensing that they used to the lease and collective responsibility, right?
Yeah. And was Bedley's units, were they all furnished already?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So they just left, you just kind of took over as is, all the furniture,
Well,
everything.
there was a more complicated structure. But if we, to oversimplify, yeah, we took the responsibilities in front of their tenants and we keep them at 100%, let's say, to what they were promising from Bedley side to their tenants and to their landlords. Correct.
Nice. And then how would you, from like a guest or member resident tenant perspective, what could somebody moving into New York City, maybe they're moving in from another country, are there any tips that you suggest, questions they should ask, things they should quickly check to make sure they're moving into a legitimate co-living operation?
Yeah, so it's important to so basically check the start from the basics. Whatever you do, not necessarily connected to co-living. I mean, check the website, check the reviews, check the social media, check how many properties do they have. Number one. Number two, when you discuss with the co-living operator how everything will be organized, ask them about what kind of contract you will sign, and just read through that contract. So there can be just two types of responsibility for the co-living person. One is responsibility just for somebody who is signing the contract and it's a license agreement, or in some form, or collective responsibility, and that's a lease.
Perfect. And then they can, so either way, either direction, they should be fine.
Technically speaking, yes. I mean, you need to, it's difficult to judge this from the legal standpoint because there were not much, let's say, still not much information for that, not much legal cases for that. So it will build up over years, but basically, yes. So to be protected, just read what you sign, and I mean the responsibilities, and yeah.
And then do you see, like, obviously, because you guys started, which year did Outpost Club start?
2016.
16. Awesome. So
Yeah.
do you see the cities like New York City? Do you see, municipalities and regulation starting to shift in a more positive direction?
I think so. What we saw is that city comes, they observe, and then they judge. And basically, if everything is done in a right way, if like you have your documentation, you don't hide anything, you let the inspectors come if they want, then it's the way to go.
And
Yeah,
is
and
there,
cities
yeah.
definitely adapt. Cities definitely adapt. Cities see this as some kind of, let's say, easing the housing problem.
Oh, good, good. So they
Yeah.
obviously see it as a help. And then is New York, again, I know you just got into
Mm.
San Francisco's market. Is there one city that's easier to deal with? San Francisco versus New York?
No,
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 they're the
they're
same?
both. They're crazy. No, each is difficult and crazy, and each is crazy in their own way. So, yeah,
Okay, there we go. You heard it here first.
yeah,
Okay, I was trying, because I'm such a West Coast person. I'm here in California, so of course I was hoping we would be a little more, up on the regulation. But I know those are two. I mean, out of the entire United States, those are the two toughest markets. I just didn't
yeah.
know if one was worse than the other to deal with.
Yeah, both cities are very protective to the tenants and much less protective to the landlords or co-living operators. So
Which
that's
are
the trick.
which is the two most urban, dense, populated cities in this country. So I would just, again, maybe they'll just shift with the times. They'll probably have no
Mm,
choice, right? Because you guys are trying to create, put more people in these dense cities, in a good living environment. And
yeah,
so, yeah.
yeah. So it will develop over the next, I think, 5 years. So the regulations will follow the business itself.
And then are you personally involved in any coalitions or any, like, are you hands-on in trying to work directly with the cities?
We work with some nonprofits or larger companies who work with the cities, who do the conferences. Yeah, who give
Okay.
our feedback a lot.
Perfect. And then also, I don't know, because Homeshare was another one in San Francisco
Mm-hmm.
that had similar problems in April, and they closed their doors. Do you know much about their story?
No, I cannot comment on that much. That's
Okay. And then do you see any others? Do you think this might happen in the future with some other ventures?
Yeah, how I see it. So the wave of all of this started back in 2015, 16, so 17 maybe. So there were a lot of companies appeared. Everybody had their own focus, and somebody was developing more tech side, somebody was trying to take more properties, somebody was just taking one or two properties and playing with them a little bit. So what I think will happen by the end of this year and next year, definitely, we all will see a lot of mergers or acquisitions, because somebody who took it as a fun project, maybe they're already tired, they want to go out of that. Somebody who received venture funding but was not able to receive the further rounds, they will and didn't build the profitable model, they will also be like in a difficult situation, because they would need to keep like running, but that would create the problem with their cash, probably. And bigger companies like Airbnb or others, they also look at this market. Airbnb already started to invest this year.
Mhm.
They invested $160 million in one of the operators for the business, focused on the business travelers and home shares for business travelers. So I think that, next year would be about that.
And then if an operator, like, what do you think just personally, and again, I know this is your opinion, what's a good rule of thumb on operating expenses in the bank? Again, somebody's out there trying to raise their next round. They're running out of cash. They got 600 beds with people living in them. What do you think's a good rule of thumb? Like 3 months, 6 months before they run out of cash to start reaching out to partners so that the residents don't get stranded?
Yeah, so I think that the good way of doing all of that is definitely to keep an eye on the expenses. This is, I mean, it's not only for Coliving, for any business. It's important to have a good cost control. Very important. If you don't control your costs, they will kill you. Number two, in terms of laying out business or relationship, there always should be a plan of what happens if you go out of business, or how the handling over of the tenants, leases, security deposits, etc., would be organized. So that process in most of the regulations, it's not less than 30 days that you need to inform your tenants about the changes. So, but it's always better to do earlier than that. And a good way to do this is to just agree first on a plan internally, and then roll out the good plan to the tenants um, in terms of let's say, just to switch the companies. I think that's the best way, when you agree about everything with other, let's say, players or landlords, and you just hand over everything in a good way. That for the customers, it will be just the switch of the company. They will not notice it. A more complicated way or difficult is, if you inform them just bye-bye, we disappeared, and then customers left with who knows what. Sometimes customers in a license agreements, they may not even know who are their landlord is. So, I mean, that creates some friction. But again, in terms of bad lease situation, they didn't take any money out of this. So every deposit, every last month, everything was transferred back to the tenants. So there was no financial impact. In terms of handling the communication, there were some things which were not so well organized. However, landlords picked up the tenants, they picked up or other picked up their, let's say, obligations, and then as far as I know, most of the tenants were offered the situation where they either keep the current agreement until the end of the term initially agreed, or they would have a chance to stop the lease basically and try to find something else. So those two options, again, to my knowledge, they were offered to almost 100% of the tenants who were impacted with the badly shut down.
How much notice did they have? Was it a 2 week, 3 week? Did they get the full
No, more.
30 days?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. All of them were offered to keep their tenants until the end of August, in the end of July. So it was more than 30 days notice.
See, everybody listening and watching, that's why you can't believe
Mm,
everything on the interwebs.
no,
Because even though, and I knew, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Like, because they made it sound like it was like a 1 week, like, we're closing down, you have nowhere to live, you have to move out.
that's true that that it sounded like they closed operations like in 1 week. However, each and every tenant were offered to keep their tenancy during the months of August in a place they were living. So it was more than 30 days notice. Again, as far as I know. Maybe
Okay.
there were some special cases. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I can
because
talk only about the clients whom we touched directly.
Perfect. No, that's very helpful. Great. Okay, good deal. Good deal. Yeah, and again, just so many people were asking, and I didn't have any knowledge. But I do know the person that kind of came in and at least saved, helped with some of the properties
Yeah.
and some of the units. So that's awesome, Sergey. That's great. And then what's the future for Outpost Club? Obviously, you guys, I don't know if there's any other cities you're able to say yet that you're expanding into. Any fun things upon the horizon?
No, we keep growing. So I think we have a very nice organic growth rate. So we wanna expand more on the West Coast. So wait for us there,
Yay,
California.
come down to LA and San Diego.
Yeah, currently we're having like 60 tenants in San Francisco, but we want to increase that number
Terrific.
much
Well,
more. And,
yeah.
mhm,
That's
yeah.
exciting to hear. I love hearing that. And then obviously for those listening, watching, if you're a current operator and maybe you're just, maybe Outpost Club can help your operations if you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
Uh,
come earlier. Talk to your peers. Yeah,
yeah.
because this is the most when difficulty comes, the most important thing is network that you have. I mean, because then you start to go around, ask people whether it's interesting, not interesting for them to take over or do some other projects. So it's important to keep network alive.
No, and that's perfect to end on that. And I agree, being in business 15 years, any business, if you're, I think it's a lonely journey, especially if things are going
Mm,
bad, you don't want to tell anybody. You don't want to tell your staff. You don't want to tell your employee or your customers. But then at the same time, nobody can help you. And then the next thing you
yeah,
know, it's too late. And then what do you do?
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, Sergi. Well, thanks for coming on today. I see that it's a beautiful
Thank
day
you.
there in New York in your backyard. So thanks for
Yes.
coming on and getting everybody up to speed on that. And good luck with everything. We're cheering you on for Outpost Club.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.